want to talk now about communication, affecting other people with your language. So make this note now to start. If you're okay, say, I'm okay. All right. Everybody's working hard. I appreciate that. This is about the best prepared audience I think I've seen in a long time, ready to work hard and take notes and get it all. It's an incredible inspiration for me. Under communication, here's one of the greatest gifts all of us have, our language, our ability to speak, our ability to frame words into such a way that we create images and pictures, help someone to understand, help someone to become educated, help someone to see what they couldn't see before. It's almost godlike in power. The storyteller tells us, in the beginning, God spoke and said, "Let there be light," and there was light, giving us the indication that God's words can create light. But now make this note. There's more than one kind of light. Wow. Next to the power of God creating light by his own words is the power of all of us creating sight, which is light in a form, helping somebody to see by using our language the best we know how. What if somebody can't see how they could possibly be successful, and you came along and told them your story, choosing the best words you possibly could, and when you finished your story, they said, "Now I can see. Before you got here, I was blind, couldn't see. Now that you've shared with me by your language, your story, now I can see. Before you got here, I was in the dark. And it seemed to me like while you were talking, some things dawned on me." Isn't that a good expression? Some things dawned on me, like the sun started coming up. And the more you talked, the further up the sun came and the brighter got the images and the imagination. Helping people to see, that's one of the greatest gifts. Words are so powerful if they're framed right, if they're sent with sincerity. Words that create images, words that express life, words that express experiences, words that express gifts of ideas that you've got to share. See, that's some of the greatest gifts you can bestow. And here's the best place to start with your children. See if you can't inspire with your own language a better sense of the importance of the day, a better sense of the importance of doing the work, a better sense of the importance of getting good grades, developing yourself, becoming who you'd like to become. Do the disciplines now that'll give you the joy later. Teaching is one of the greatest senses of accomplishment in the world. Helping somebody learn, helping somebody take early steps in a new career, early steps as an entrepreneur, showing somebody the way, the gift of words, the gift of language. Here's what the old prophet said: "Words are like a lamp for your feet, so you can see where to walk." That's a gift. Words are like a lamp for your feet, so you can see where to walk. And then he said, words are also like a light for your pathway, so you can see where to go. If somebody with the gift of language and words can help you to walk where you should walk and then show you a pathway to go, they do you immeasurable service. Who could calculate the value and the worth of that kind of exercise? Showing somebody the steps to take and showing somebody the way to go that would be helpful. Whether it's a way of good health, whether it's a way of a better relationship, whether it's a way of an entrepreneur, a refinement of career, doesn't matter what it is. If we know the steps and somebody reveals to us the way, see, they do us by their own language some of the greatest gifts we ever enjoy. Words, language. So let's now talk about good communication. I've got 4 steps to achieve good communication. Let's just do the fundamentals here. There's not very many. In fact, there's not very many fundamentals to anything, just a few, handful. 6, 7, 8. Here's the first step to achieve good communications. Number 1, have something good to say. That's step number 1. It's fairly obvious. To have something good to say, try to recall and remember and take notes, keep journal, whatever, of your experiences, because as you live your life, you're going to have something good to say. 1, from your failures. 2, from your successes. You're going to have something better to say from the mistakes you've made and how you corrected it and bailed yourself out. And sometimes instead of just registering it in your head, why not commit it to paper so that it gets logged, it gets recorded, and someday you can use it for the future? Have something good to say. The key to speaking well, the key to excellent communications is preparation. Actually, all of our life is preparing. This year, preparing for the next. Those first, 8, 9 grades preparing for high school, then high school preparing for college, college and university preparing for a career to earn money, then preparing to make the investments to keep you safe and secure, build a financial wall around your family nothing can get through. Always preparing for those steps and stages in our life. That's part of the game of life. For humans, it seems like it takes us longer to prepare. When the little wildebeest is born, it only has about 1 hour to get ready to run with the herd and escape the lions. 1 hour. So the little wildebeest, as soon as it's born, tries to stand up, falls down. Its mother nudges it, stand up, falls down. Stand up, come on, try again. Why such urgency? The lions are not very far away. Come on. And within less than an hour, the little wildebeest, brand new, just born, is now strong enough to run with the herd and escape the lions. Less than an hour. Human babies take a little longer. After 17 years, we're not quite sure they can escape all the lions and have a safe place to go. So preparation, getting ready, sometimes seems so laborious. After going to grade 1, now you got to go to grade 2. After grade 2, it's grade 3. Will it never end? Come on, 1 more grade 4, and then 5. Wow, seems like it takes us forever to finally get ready, to design a life and get married and have a family and a career and fortune and future. But it takes preparation. Now, to communicate well, here's some good words to prepare for communication. Number 1, interest. Just keep your interest alive in people and places. That's why, a big share of my job takes me around the world. Countries all around the world, from Africa to Asia to South America to Australia to Russia to the Far East, Israel. The last time I was in Israel, there was some kind of an alert. We were all on the airplane. We all had to get off the airplane. They took off all of our luggage, and each one of us had to go identify our piece of luggage and put it back on the airplane, and then we took off. Wow. Taking what? No chances. If you'll develop an interest in all of that, when it's right side up and when it's upside down, take a keen interest in the politics of the day and the speeches and all that's happening. It gives you good stuff to debate and decide. Where do you stand on the major issues? Not only the political issues, but the major life issues. Be that interested in life and people. So underline the word life and people. That's the whole study. Study life in all of its twists and turns. Study people in all of their variety. In being in an enterprise that, where you have to employ people, get people to work with you, that's a challenge. Different ages, different opinions, different personalities, different temperaments. Here's one of the skills I learned that paid me big money. Getting people to work together. And see if they're all different in a whole variety. How do you get them all to work together? I'm telling you, it's not easy. It is a challenge, organizing, getting people to work together. But the paycheck, it's unbelievable. Now, if you're working with independent people, then it really is challenging. It's like herding cats. Did you ever try that? Herding sheep is easy. They all quickly get going the same direction, very quickly. Cats, no way. If you've got 8 cats, how many directions are they going? 8 different directions. But if you can master herding cats, I promise you, a paycheck like you cannot believe. Here's what's interesting about people. The ones who should do it the most are inclined the least. How come they can't see it? I don't know. I can see it. They can't see it. Maybe right now they're not supposed to see it. That's the best I said. Sometimes you just got to take the easier way out. I don't know. That's an easier way out than to try to explain it all. That's just the way it is. Somebody you thought was going to stay, they leave. Here's what you have to learn to say. Isn't that interesting? Wow. And somebody that you thought was going to leave, what? They stay, and you say, I wouldn't have thought that in 100 years. There's a surprise a day waiting for you, working with people. And then some people are nice and some people are not so nice. But there's only a few. When I first started in sales, Mr. Schoaf, my mentor, said, here's the good news, Mr. Owen. There's only 9 or 10 real nasty, miserable, horrible people in the world. That's what he said. Now, he said, they move around a lot. And you're liable to get one once in a while. But when you do, you just say, hey, there's only 9 more like you. I can handle that the rest of my life. So that was really good. And then sometimes you got to try a little wit and a little humor. That helps. When I first started traveling with Mark Hughes and Herbalife 21 years ago, one of my friends said to me, I heard some people died using that product. And I said, not that many. Now, it was a silly comment that he made, so I had to think up a silly answer. You can't give an honest answer, a good answer to a silly comment. I said, I understand as long as the deaths are under 100 a month, they get to keep selling the product. If the numbers go over 100, they have to come in for a review. Now, that was all silly nonsense, but he deserved it, right? His silly comment. I don't know, use a little humor. Somebody says, this isn't going to work for me. Say it was designed not to work for some people. I don't know. What do I know? Too bad that's you. What can I say? I'm not a genius to figure this stuff out. The best wit in the world was Winston Churchill, right? Lady Astor in the English Parliament, exasperated one day with Winston Churchill. She said, Winston, if you were my husband, I'd put poison in your coffee. He said, Lady Astor, if you were my wife, I would drink it. Now, whatever it takes. Don't let anybody put you down. Be a student of life and people and all the varieties and what's happening in the world. It's an interesting place to live. And while you're here, learn all you can, study all you can. The varieties. Some people are easy and some are miserable. Just learn how to handle all that. Here's the next word to communicate well, and that's fascination. It goes the step beyond just interest. Be like a child, fascinated with everything. Next, sensitivity. trying to understand where people are, where they're coming from, the position they might be in at the moment. Trying to understand, a night visits us all after days, and some winters are tough, and some people are having tough times. Be sensitive to all that. Next is simply knowledge. Just gather every idea you can that makes you a better communicator. I came up with this back in those early days when I was talking to service clubs and, once in a while a high school class and a college class and making those little speeches. I come up with this little speech. Here it is. I'll give you the notes on it. It's called The 4 Ifs That Make Life Worthwhile. The 4 ifs. And if you're looking to make a little speech, these notes might serve you well. Here was the first if. Life is worthwhile if you learn. You got to know. You got to have the information. When I talk to the kids in school, that's what I say. Get the information while you're here. What you're going to do with it, that's up to you. Throw it all away, that's up to you. Just use a little of it, that's up to you. But while you're here, get it all. Right? There's nothing worse than being stupid. Being broke is bad, but being stupid is really bad. So get the information. What's really, really bad is being broke and stupid. Nothing worse than that. Unless you're sick. That would do it. Sick, broken, stupid. That's about as far as you can fall, unless you're ugly. But surely that's the ultimate negative life. Ugly, sick, broken, stupid. That is it. So you got to know. You got to have the information. So jot this down now, as I used in my notes. What you don't know will hurt you. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is tragedy. Ignorance is illness. Ignorance is devastation. Ignorance is going broke. Ignorance creates a poor life. So you got to know, you got to have the information. Number 1, learn from your personal experience. One way to learn to do it right is first mess it up and do it wrong. That doesn't mean it's the end of your life, but just, clean up the mess, now do it right. From a negative experience, sometimes we learn to do the positive things that saves our life and makes us successful. They say, if you survive your first heart attack, if you survive, you may now live to be a very old person. Why is that? That first heart attack was a wake-up call. And then maybe the doctor said, another one of these and you're history. And you say, wow. And you make it for the health food store. And you start reading every book you can read on health and nutrition. And you start doing the push-ups and you start jogging on the beach and doing all the stuff. And all of that change now could very well help you to live a long, long life, having been alerted in an alarm system that serves you well. Okay? So learn from your negative as well as your positive experiences. Here's the next, learn from other people's experiences. That's how you get smarter in a shorter period of time. Somebody that's been through it for 5 years and they wrote a book, and the book, if you read it, could save you 5 years. Cost $30. So you can't miss that kind of education. Best to get the information before. Yes, we can recover. Yes, we can come back, from the grave, practically. Yes, we can come back from bankruptcy and disaster and poor health. But wow, if we had the information up front that would save us some of those years of disaster, how much better that would be. So learn from other people's experiences, both negative and positive. In the seminar I do for Jerry, here's what I say. 2 bad failures don't give seminars. We don't want to pay them, so they don't give seminars. But their information would be valuable. If a guy's messed up his life for 40 years, you just have to say, John, would you spend a day with me? And I'll bring my notebook and take good notes. Good-looking guy like you, beautiful family, every reason to do well, and you threw it all away. Teach me for a day how you messed it all up. Right? And you just take good notes so that the same thing doesn't happen to you. So learn from your experience, learn from other people's experiences. Okay. If you learn, life is worthwhile. Here's the second if. If you try, you gotta now try something from what you've learned. We've talked about that now earlier. Take action. You never know. My father said you never know until you try. If we put the bar up 2 feet and ask the kids to jump over the bar 2 feet high, what will the kids say? Some will say, no, I can't. Some will say, easy. Some will say what? I don't know. So how are we gonna find out? For everybody. You got to take a run at it and see if you can jump the 2 feet. So you got to try it to see. Who knows? You don't know. What if you tried and knocked the bar down? Does that mean you cannot jump 2 feet? No. You try it, what? Again. Then somebody shows you a little technique, right? Leave the ground a little earlier. Okay. First thing you know, 2 feet is easy, when before you couldn't or didn't think you could. So you got to try it. Giving speeches and doing talks. Age 25, I stand up to give my first little training. My mind sat back down. I open my mouth and nothing comes out. My knees are knocking like this. The sweat is pouring. It's called terror, in case you haven't tried it, right? But I got through it somehow. It was so bad, if I hadn't have been doing the class, I'd have gone home, right? It was bad. I'm so happy you were not there. You would not have paid this kind of money for my first presentation. Wow. But I got through it, and then I did it again. You know, I didn't know if I should even try again. But sure enough, I had the kind of mentor and the kind of teacher who said, hey, that's nothing. You know, what if you go up to bat and you strike out? Does that mean it's over? I say, no, it's not over. It's just over for one time up at bat. And then another time and another time. Pretty soon you connect. And pretty soon you get good enough to do well. And then pretty soon you get good enough to win the game. And then pretty soon you get good enough to take home the trophy. So you just keep trying. The third if that makes life worthwhile is if you stay. You got to hang in there. Some people plant in the spring and leave in the summer. When it gets a little hot and a little uncomfortable, and it looks like the weeds are winning, and it looks like the bugs are having a feast, and you have a tendency to say, hey, I've had it with this. But the key is, if you want the harvest in the fall at harvest time, you've got to stay through the summer. Okay. Even if the harvest doesn't turn out to be good, you just see it through and then use that experience to do better planting in the spring come the next turnaround of seasons. So stay in there. If you're going to play the game, you got to stay until it's over. What if you were on the team and you guys were behind and you said, hey, we're so far behind, we're out of here. And you all walked off the court, right? We would run you out of town, probably. We wouldn't own you as the home team. Say, I'm behind, so I'm out of here. No, you stay until what? It's over. We're not talking about a lifetime now. We're just talking about this game. If you're in it, stay till it's over. Who are these people who leave as spectators before the game is over? Because their team is behind. Our team is behind, we're out of here. What if the team said that? Who are these people that walk, push and shove, spill popcorn and Coke down your neck, leaving early? Who are these people? They're the ones that are saying, we're going to beat the traffic. Oh, that's one of the greatest skills on earth, is beating the traffic, leaving your team that's behind to fend for themselves. Goodbye, we're out of here, we're gone. No, if you sign up for the game, you don't have to go to every game, but the one you sign up, you stay. right? You don't have to do everything every time, but when you start it, see it through. See the seasons through. Then you don't have to plant anymore if you don't want to. But when you do sign up, go the distance. Here's a guy who builds a foundation and then he walks off and leaves it. Puts up no walls, no roof, doesn't finish anything. He's got these foundations scattered all across the country. Foundations. I asked a friend of mine, I said, Jim, what are you good at? He said, starting over. That's my specialty, right? He said, hey, if it doesn't work, I don't stay long. No, come on. See it through. Life is worthwhile if you stay. Hang in there. Next, life is worthwhile if you care. And for my little talk for the service clubs, here's how I wound it up. If you care at all, you'll get some results. If you care enough, you can get extraordinary results. If you just care at all, you'll get some. But if you really cultivate your caring character and care enough, you can have such extraordinary returns from productivity, activity, things you're doing underway. Okay, have something good to say. Here's the next one. Under communication. Now we must learn to say it well. Once you've got something, now you can't mumble. If you've got something good to say, you can't mumble, right? It's got to be clear, or no matter how good the message is that you've got to deliver, how good the instructions, how good the ideas, no matter how good they are, if you don't deliver them well, now the power is lost and the opportunity is lost. So number one is to have something good to say, and number two is to say it well. Here's what will help you to say it well. Make this list. Number one, sincerity. If a message is delivered with sincerity, see, that makes all the difference. If the speaker is sincere, if the father is sincere, if the mother is sincere, see, that's captivating for the children. If the friend is sincere, even covering a delicate subject for us of some changes we probably should make, if they're sincere, see, we will give them room. Perhaps to get on our case if we know they're sincere, not just trying to criticize for criticizing's sake. If your sincerity, I'm telling you, that wins the day. Here's what can really be accomplished. Hopefully, like this weekend here, someone sincerely willing to speak and someone sincerely willing to listen. Now, in terms of lecture, book, seminar, and all the rest, we must come to this conclusion, because it's a wise conclusion, that sincerity is not a test of truth. In your study and evaluating everything, just make sure you have that in the back of your mind. Sincerity is not a test of truth. We must not make the mistake of saying, he must be right. He's so sincere. See, that might be a mistake. Why is that? Here's why. It's possible to be sincerely wrong. So sincerity is not a test of truth. Here's the only test of truth. Truth is the only test of truth, not sincerity. We hope someone will be both truthful and sincere, but we don't mistake sincerity for truth. Here's next. Repetition. To get better at something, you just have to go do it. Go do it. Accept every opportunity to go make a little talk if that's going to be your business. Get better at talking to your kids. Come up with more illustrations. Come up with more ideas. Read an extra book, how to communicate with teenagers. So you'll have something a little better to say. And then just practice it. Get good at it. Get better at it. Right? I was clumsy when I started. Now the words flow a little easier. I still struggle with the language, trying to make it clear, but it's easier now. Repetition has helped me to do that. Here's what's next. In good communication, saying it well, brevity. Right? Don't take too long to say it if you can say it in shorter sentences and shorter time. One way to learn brevity is to talk to kids. You talk to kids for 30 seconds and they say, how long is this gonna take? It's already too long, right? 30 seconds. I mean, they got games to play and things to do. They can't hang around for, an hour's discourse. So talk to kids. It helps you to make it more brief. Powerful, but brief. Well said, but, more brief. The storyteller tells us Jesus wandered around the countryside in putting his 12 together that was going to start this whole new movement. And as he wandered around the countryside, every once in a while he would say, you follow me. See, that's short. That's no hour presentation with the fancy lights and, no, just you follow me. Why could he be so brief and so short with that simple appeal? Jot this down now. Probably for who he was, not just for what he said, but for who he was. There was something about him when he said, you follow me. See, probably his reputation, probably his manner, probably with how he said it. Irresistible, you follow me. Wow. So here's what's powerful. And you can talk less and even be more effective in this personal development area. The stronger you become and the wiser you become, the more caring you become, it shows in your language and your manner. The texture of your communication changes and reaches where it couldn't reach before. It strikes the heart where it didn't strike before. That's the key here. Next, style. Now you've got to develop your own style. You can be a student of style. There's about a dozen people that I know over the years that if you knew those dozen, you'd say, hey, a little bit of each of them appears in Jim Rohn's style, which is probably true. Not copying any one person, but I like the way the person said it this way. I like the person's gestures, because I used to be a little too stiff without, gestures. Frank Sinatra was the best, not for only his lyrics and his phrasing and his style, but his gestures. His gestures. They were captivating. They were part of his persona. So make this note, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Style, sincerity, the way you present it, heart, soul, from deep inside, commitment, dedication, wrapped up in your language so that now when you present it, hey, it becomes incredibly effective. Next is vocabulary. The better your vocabulary, the better you can share ideas that are meaningful, find words now to use that you couldn't use before. Interesting story on vocabulary. Some friends of mine took a survey among prisoners many, many years ago. Some rehabilitation program they were working on for prisoners. They weren't looking for this, but here's what they found. There's definitely a connection between vocabulary and behavior. And here's what they discovered. The more limited the vocabulary, the more tendency to poor behavior. Isn't that interesting? And when you think about it for a while, you can say, well, I can see where that would be. If you were very limited in your ability to comprehend because you had such a small vocabulary, that no matter what someone said, it would still be confusing. No matter what they said, it still might not make sense. They said it clear, but you couldn't see it. And sometimes that's because the vocabulary is so limited that it doesn't have the ability to register the scene on the screen of your consciousness. What if you could only see the world through this little tiny hole? You would be inclined to say, the world is like this. And all of us would say, no, the world is like this. This person would say, no, it's like this. How come they keep insisting the world is like this? Because that's all they can see. They're limited in the scope of their ability to widen their perception about life and what's going on and what's happening simply because they don't have the vocabulary to understand. So they started working on vocabulary. And immediately, behavior started to change. Being able to see, being able to comprehend. Oh, now I see. Oh, now I understand the reason why. And as your education increases, that should be one of the major purposes for education, is to help you see things you couldn't see before. Comprehend what you couldn't comprehend before. See a future you couldn't see before. See beyond tomorrow you couldn't see before. See, that's a gift. Vocabulary. So keep working on your vocabulary. Now here's another reason. Only with our present vocabulary can we express what's going on in our head, what's going on in our heart. You can't express beyond your present vocabulary. What if it's very limited? Then your ability to express what you think, express how you feel, is limited. So by a very restricted vocabulary, if you can't understand very well, and if you can't express very well, then your world becomes very, very small, and you only need a place 8 by 10 to live. So jot this down. Make one of the books a very important book, and that is the dictionary. A word you don't understand? I think Dennis mentioned that earlier. Come to a word you don't understand, you look it up. Say, what is this word? Words are like lights. It's like another light. Now make this note now, especially the English language. There's nothing richer than the English language because there's so many ways to say it in English. In some languages, there's only one way to say it. In English, there's another way to say it, and another way to say it, and another way to say it. When I travel to all these countries and have to have translators, it gets to be difficult sometimes. Expressing something that makes sense in English, because we have several ways to say it, but in their language, there's only a couple of ways to say it. So the translator has a tough job sometimes translating. So I've had to learn to amend and modify, work on my presentation when I travel needing translation. When I first went to Japan, I said to my audience, he was all bent out of shape. And my translator said, what the heck does that mean? Right? I can't translate that into Japanese. So that would make sense in English, right? We know what that meant, but in Japanese, how would you describe that? So I learned not to use those kind of phrases. My first Chinese audience, I said, he blew his top. My Chinese translator said, wouldn't look good in Chinese with the characters. So, right, I have to modify and change, and right, poetry and some things just don't work with translation. Stories make sense in English, don't make sense in another language. So it's interesting. It's interesting when you have multi-languages. One of Herbalife's big conventions, 35,000 in the Georgia Dome, 21 languages. Everybody in the audience has got these headphones on. And you hit the punchline, the Spanish get it first, and then the French get it, and then the Germans get it, and then finally the Italians get it. Some of them seems like it takes a little longer to catch on, but it's the translation. Some translations take a little longer to translate than others. So it is a challenge to help somebody to understand something simultaneously in 21 languages. So you have to learn how to present, how to do the stuff so that it's easier for the translators to make sense, right, of what you're trying to say. It's interesting. But the gift of language is so powerful, it's worth the exercise, it's worth the effort. Okay? Vocabulary, brevity, style, repetition, sincerity, saying it well. Here's another one on saying it well. Don't fail to say it. You need the practice. Practice everywhere. If you're going to give someone a gift and send a little card, practice making this little card something they'll keep and remember for the rest of their lives. Not ordinary, extraordinary. Not like everyone else, different than everyone else. It's the practice of using your gift of saying things another way until a light turns on. Another way that expresses something heartfelt that the standard ordinary language wouldn't express, couldn't reach, couldn't paint these mental pictures. It's okay to give flowers, but don't let flowers do all your talking. Flowers have a limited vocabulary. Guess what flowers say? You remembered. That's about all they say. Flowers don't say, nobody in this world affects me like you do. Love. See, flowers talk, but they don't say that. That you got to put in the little card. Nobody in this world affects me like you do. Love, and then you sign it. And see, long after the flowers are gone, somebody's going to keep the words. The words are more powerful than the flowers. So don't let flowers do all your talking. See if you can't choose the words that are meaningful, words that are unique. And the more you do this, practicing every little occasion to say something well, every little occasion to say something well, whether it's a little talk to the family gathering, or whether it's training, or whether it's inspiring, or a little class on Sunday morning, whatever it is, keep improving, find a new way to say it, a new illustration, a new story. You'll get better. The gift will belong to you, and the effect could be electrifying. Don't fail to say it. Now, women are better at this really than men. Women seem to be able to find the language much easier to say something. Men have to work at it a little harder. So come on, men, let's work at this thing a little harder. See if we can't say something meaningful that's, not just standard, ordinary. That's okay, right? But just think of ways. When my wife Judy and I parted ways, wow, that was a unique experience. I wrote this little note. Dear Judy, as often as the night comes, so does my sadness. As constant as the day arrives, so is my love for you. I wish for you and I wish the best for you, and I understand that dilemma. My life is here where you touched me. If ever you would call, I would be there to be touched again. It wasn't very long, it was just a few words, but I tried to express what was going on in my heart and soul at the moment. So I'm asking you, don't fail to say it. Here's an expression we've heard. Words are no substitute for action. That's true. Let me give you another one. Action is no substitute for words. It's okay to do, but you've also got to say. Express it, as clumsy as it might be to start. Start a better program of better communication, saying it better. Now here's one more, and we're going to take a stretch break. If you're okay, say I'm okay. Is this stuff helpful so far? Yes. Fantastic. I want to check, just in case we need to shut down here and go home. Here's the next one now that's really challenging, but it really works, and that is read your audience. Whether it's an audience of a child or an audience of a training class, or whether you're a minister and you preach, here's what you've got to do. Say something well, but then read the effect you're having. In those early days, I had to quickly read, should I keep going or should I quit? I mean, is it over? Or, you got to read it. And at first, I started just going through my notes like this, and I didn't look up. That was just to get your attention. I would go through my notes and I wouldn't look up. I would just go through my notes. Some of those early classes, I think everybody could have left and I'd have just kept on going right through my notes. Then finally, I learned to start looking up to see if it's okay. Should I slow down? Should I speed up? Am I coming on a little too strong? Should I get a little softer? This is what reading is all about. If you're talking to a child, should you really pour it on or should you hesitate? Should you save this for another time or do it now? Some of that you've got to pick up by reading the child. Read what's happening to your audience of 1 or 1,000. This is a challenge, but it'll help you in framing better the words you need to say and the style you need to use. Okay. If a guy's leaning toward the door, that means you probably should hurry. He's not going to be here long. Get it done. Now, in reading, there's three things. Jot these down. Three things in reading your audience. First, you read what you see. Salespeople soon learn. If the customer's got his arms folded and his chin tucked down and he's frowning, this one ain't gonna be easy. Right? This one's gonna take all my skill to get his arms unfolded, make him a little more comfortable, get that frown off of his face. What can I do? I got to reach in my bag for some good stuff, right? To see if I can't sort of change the situation. And what causes us now to do those amendments in our presentation? It's reading someone's body language, right? What's happening? Here's the next one. You've got to read what you hear. If it's a two-way conversation, you've got to listen as well as talk. Mama said 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk at least, maybe more. Listen so that you can now know how to proceed, especially if you're talking to a child. You listen so that you know how to proceed. No use going on and on if just a couple of things will do, and by listening, you pick that up, by listening. Here's the next one. You got to pick up the emotional signals, how you feel, whether you're coming on too strong, whether you should be stronger or easier this time. That's an art in reading. First, what you see. Second, what you hear. Third, read how you feel. Now, this is where women really have it made. Being able to feel, sense. Woman says, it doesn't feel right. Man says, what does that mean? It doesn't feel right. She says, I'm telling you, something. Women know about this stuff. Something isn't. Wow. And they pick it up. Men can learn better on how to pick up these emotional signals, but women seem to have it. Right? They're tuned in. It's built in. Because there's no use going on and on. If the signal should have told you, wow, this is not the time. This is too strong. Picking up not only what you see and what you hear, but what you feel. Now, here's the last one. And I'm finished for us to go take a break. To achieve good communication, something good to say, saying it well, reading your audience. Here's the last one. Intensity. Intensity is the emotional part of communication. Communication is both words and emotion. Here's what's really powerful. Words loaded with emotion. See, that's what's unbelievably powerful. It can move nations. It can help people change directions. It can establish an ideology, for good or for bad. Look at Hitler and his ability to preach. Look at Stalin and his ability to preach. Lenin, as wrong as they were, they believed it with all of their heart. Disastrous results, but they put everything they had into it. The emotional content was unbelievable. Powerful. Yes, in an evil direction, but it can also be used for a good direction. This intensity, strength, power, emotion. Words are words. Words are like a little straight pin, right? A guy buys a shirt and it's got all these little pins in it, little straight pins that you got to take out. What if I took one of those straight pins and I threw it at you and it hit you in the face or the hand? You'd feel it. That's my words that got you, the little straight pin. But what if I took that little straight pin and wired it to the end of an iron bar about this long? And then I let you have it. See, I could drive the pin through your heart. The iron bar is the emotion. The pin is the words. Now here's the craft. And conversation is a craft. Don't get lazy in learning this craft, because it'll serve you so well at home. It'll serve you so well in the marketplace. It'll serve you so well in your career and making your fortune. This craft of communication. Here's the combination. Well-chosen words mixed with measured emotion. Not only do the words have to be well-chosen, the emotion has to be well measured. Meaning, not too much power for a minor point. The actor on the stage or in the movies, in giving a performance, has to learn this craft of the right amount of emotion with the dialogue and the words that are to be spoken. It can be so powerful if it's measured well. See, if you had a powerful point and a little bit of emotion, that wouldn't make sense. Nobody would get it. Nobody would say, wow, for such a powerful point, it's not a very strong emotion. So then you can't come on too strong with some minor point. You know, sometimes kids have a legitimate objection. They say, you're making too big a deal. And sometimes parents have a tendency to do that, to make a big deal out of a little bitty deal. So here's the key. Make a big deal out of a big deal, and then smaller emotional content on a little minor deal. That's an art. That's a craft. When you go fishing, what do they say? Don't pull too hard, you'll lose the fish. Don't give them too much line, they'll get away. So it's called pull, 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 easy, easy, pull, pull, easy, easy, pull, easy. That's like communication. Strong, but not too strong, not too strong. Close, but not too close. If you talk to somebody, this is too close. This is too close. Give them a little more room. Adjust your style to fit the occasion and the emotional content so that it works, so that it makes sense. That when you burst on the scene, it's called for. The point is called for, that much emotion. This is a craft. Don't get lazy here. And the reason I ask you not to get lazy here is because the payoff is so great. Whether it's working on a job or advancing your career or at home with your family or communicating with your spouse. Whatever it is, craft your communications. Be a little more aware and just ask yourself, could I possibly get better at affecting people with my language and my words and my style and my emotions and all the rest? And the answer is yes, we all could. I could, you could. That's why I'm here, to practice my craft as well as to deliver my message, to see if I can't be better this year than I was last year. Now we've got a lot more to cover on communication, some unique kind of stuff that I think you'll enjoy. But right now we've got to take a break.
Hello, I'm Vic Johnson. I'm here this afternoon with superstar Dennis Waitley, the 2004 Jim Rohn Weekend event. Thank you for being with us and sharing a little bit. Dennis, I wanted to ask you to expand a little bit on this morning's talk over in the room next door. You were just outstanding on purpose, vision, and goals. Right. And I know you talked about how to tie other people into your vision. And how do you get people on board, so to speak, with your vision?
I think the main thing is to make it seem like it's their vision. The only way I've ever had other people buy into what I do is show so much interest in what they're doing that they end up talking more about what they're doing, and they think I'm a great communicator because I'm listening and paying attention to them. And I found that by showing real interest in what their main turn-ons are, that makes them bond with me because they know that I'm interested in them first before they show interest in me. So by showing interest in other people, their imagination, their goals, their desires, they actually think that I'm going to be a steward for them, and I mean that sincerely. I will. So I always say, what can I do for you, before I ever say, what can you do for me?
Where do I find them at? If I want, I've got this dream, this vision to do something, where would I go out and find? If I were Jeff Bezos and I were starting Amazon today, where would I go find people to help me start the world's largest online store? Or any big dream, where would I start?
Well, I think one of the things you have to do is you need to hang around with other entrepreneurs. So if you're going to be an online store like Amazon, you got to hang around the library and the bookstores. And you have to see what they're doing in the bookstores, what's selling, how they're putting them up front, how they're merchandising. I didn't realize, for example, that they do it alphabetically. And therefore, if your name is Covey, you're in the C's about eye level, and if your name is Waitley, you're at the bottom on the floor. So sometimes I have to take my book and move it up. But what I've decided to do is hang around with people who are really doing things in life. And I think attending programs like the Jim Rohn Weekend and going on your websites and really, if you will, becoming a student of entrepreneurs who are teaching, and it rubs off on you. And the next thing you know, there are mastermind groups that develop, and you start hanging around with people who have the same ideas. One of the worst things you can do is hang around with people with similar problems, because even though it's comfortable, even though it's almost like the gang. I'd rather hang around with people more successful than me. So if you're going to be a good golfer, always play with people who are better than you. And even though you're not going to do as well, you're going to learn more. So go to success programs as much as you can.
So it's true what my mother said, birds of a feather flock together.
They do. They do indeed. And you shall know them by their works, and they hang around together. No question. That's why I've always tried to, even when I was young, I used to go to these type of programs, and I would sit in the back of the arena.
Right.
And I would say, I shouldn't say this, but I think I could do that. And you get obsessed with it, and that's how we can maybe get into the thing on purpose. I think there's really a way to find out what your purpose in life is.
Right. Well, I know that, a lot of people come to me and they ask me that, how do I find my purpose? I'm a person, I've got something inside of me that's got to come out, but I don't know what it is. How do I find my purpose in life? What do I do? What's a process I could go through?
Well, the first thing you should do is dust off your childhood. And that's really important. I've been studying that for so many years now, age 5 to 15. You begin to decide to think and know about yourself when you're about 5, and you develop some interests. And there's been a BBC video that was called 7 Up. And they took 50 children age 7, and they monitored them and did videos of them every 7 years. The first one was 7, then 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. And they found that what the kids were showing signs of being good at when they were 7 through 14. And then somehow they got off track because they got into peer pressure and adult pressure and professor pressure. And they began to go in the direction that people were telling them they should go in, getting away from what their talents were. So the first thing you need to do is do a childhood audit. What did I like to do from 5 to 15? What was a real turn on for me? Interestingly enough, when I was a kid, I sang and talked for cookies.
Oh, really?
And I went house to house, and I figured that if I could sing a song or say something funny, they'd give me a cookie. And I say, there must be something in there somewhere. Gave it up completely, realizing that I did like to talk, I like to read, I like words. So you end up being a nuclear weapons delivery pilot. You end up going to a military academy. You end up fighting for your country. But instead of being a defender of people, I wanted to be a developer of people. And I found that what I loved to do when I was a little boy is what my purpose ended up being when I was a grown man. But it took me until I was in my 40s to make that full circle transition. So what do you like to do in your spare time? There's a talent in there somewhere. What do you like to do? What your purpose in life often is hidden in what you love to do. And if you can take what you love to do and what you do well and extend that into a career, or even if it becomes your service hobby, maybe you earn money another way, but you get your real kicks out of life doing this thing you love, and therein lies your purpose, because God-given talents need to be directed in some way that just really turns you on. I mean, I can hardly wait to wake up. I haven't been to work in 30 years, and neither has a scientist, and neither has a pro golfer. Well, they hit a bucket of balls, and Lee Trevino said, as long as they're daylight, there are golf balls to be hit, and you get blisters on your hands. But if you love what you're doing, the practice part of it doesn't become monotonous. So that's why passion and obsession become purpose if they're directed in a way that helps other people.
Great. Well, I know you've coached Super Bowl athletes, Olympic athletes. You've had super achievers you've worked with in every field. When it comes to goal setting, what's the difference between them and the average Joe? What do you see?
Not much. Not much difference, except that they have channeled that and they have decided to become focused in one arena at a time. And otherwise, you become jack of all trades, master of none. I mean, I became a permanent consultant. I was good at a lot of things, but nothing really good at one thing. And until I concentrated, maybe on the psychology of winning and becoming an audio speaker on tape and pushing that up to the consciousness, did I ever become successful. But if you can find a team or a coach and a mentor, and you get focused in one area, your expertise grows with that, and you develop focus and discipline around that one thing. People say, well, wait a minute, if you do that, you're just going to be good at that. The great thing about that is when you're successful in one thing, they think you're a success in your whole life, and they give you free tickets when you could afford them. This is what the crazy thing about being really good at something. They give you free tickets when you're making more money than the average Joe. So the thing to do is take one thing and become really good at it, and then people will sponsor you. The other thing, of course, is that when you have a team, when you have comrades, when you have friendly competition like Olympians, or you have to run wind sprints, and you have to compete with one another on the same team, you find yourself helping other people because you're all on the team together. You're not going to beat anyone out of their position, but you're trying to be your best among a fast field. So I think realizing that you're with a team of winners, that you're disciplined by training, and no train, no gain. Super Bowl, Olympic, astronaut, all the same. Rehearse, on the field, simulate, drill, learn the plays, remember. The next thing you know, it becomes like driving your car or brushing your teeth, second nature. And everyone says, look at that, spontaneous performance. Spontaneity is conditioned reflex.
Right.
You're only spontaneous when you've learned to do it before and you're comfortable doing it. But you don't just do it without learning. So I think the coach, the equipment, the team, the comrades, and the training is everything.
Well, I've done my goals, and I've gone through this great exercise to do my goals. I've laid out all my objectives. I've got my calendar laid out, and I'm ready to go, but I just can't get going. And it goes on for weeks or months, and I just can't get going. And then I'm going to start beating up on myself. How do you get started sometimes when you've got it all laid out in front of you? What's keeping you from getting started, or how do you get started?
You have to find an accountable partner. I mean, who wants to work out when it's cold or rainy? In fact, who wants to work out anyway? But if you've made a commitment to someone else that you're going to meet them at a certain time at a certain place, or you get a few people, and you know there has to be a quorum in order to get a vote, I actually find 2 or 3 people who are willing to get together once a week, and they keep you honest because you're accountable to one another. So one of the best ways to get started is to make the announcement publicly that you're going to do it, and then have somebody who, instead of trying to say, I knew you couldn't do it, who keeps you saying, come on, you said you're going to do it, I'm going to hold you to it, and we're going to do this together. And to find a buddy and to keep in communication with that buddy on the phone or in person, that's the only way. It's really hard to succeed in isolation anymore. You really have to be a fanatic, obsessed person, and it's more fun to do it with somebody else too.
Well, thank you very much for an outstanding session this morning. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
Thanks, Vic. Great to be with you.